Hi, I'd like to thank everybody for being with us here today. My name is Randy Daiter, and I'm General Manager of O'Shanter Development Company. We're here today to talk about the power of service-oriented organizations, their cultures, and the positive impact that motivated and engaged employees have on the bottom line of organizations today. Achieving employee motivation is a goal that managers and organizations often tend to overlook. They focus on things like productivity, efficiency, and cost cutting, and often put motivation on the back burner. I personally think that this is an enormous blunder. You know, my wife and I recently, my wife had a big birthday and she wanted to go out to a fancy restaurant for dinner. And I begrudgingly agreed. So we went to this beautiful restaurant, and I must admit it was quite opulent. They had beautiful bricks and mortar, and they had a wonderful menu, and they hired a world-class chef, and they put a lot of time and energy into their business plan into developing a real premier quality restaurant. And we had a wonderful dinner. The food was absolutely terrific. But I can tell you that we will not be going back to this restaurant. And not only will we not be going back to this restaurant, but we will not be referring anybody to this restaurant. And that's because the service couldn't be worse. This was a huge blunder. There was a big disconnect between what they set out to achieve and what they were actually able to deliver. How many of you have had a similar experience to this? Either in a retail store that you can think of, or in a restaurant, or in an office building, in a hotel. Why do you suppose this is? Why do you think that there's such a big disconnect in so many organizations between what people, set out to deliver and what they're actually able to deliver? We can look at science, and we can look at the science of social psychology for a theoretical framework on what motivates employees. For example, Abraham Maslow, in his hierarchy of needs, argued that in addition to basic primary needs, people need to feel like they're accomplishing something. They need to be recognized, and they need to feel appreciated. This is very similar to M. Scott Myers, who maintained that it's the opportunity for achievement, responsibility, and earned recognition that make employees feel happy and really makes them feel engaged and motivated. Frederick Hertzberg had a two-factor theory who talked about the same motivators as being the key motivating factors, which he claimed were much more powerful motivators and things that made employees happy in the workplace and able to deliver than basic hygiene factors like pay and job security. There are other useful insights around the importance of creating a healthy corporate culture, which may be drawn from studies conducted through cultural anthropology, for example, the study of people and cultures. But that's not for today, and we're not going to get into those details here today. Did you know that according to a Gallup survey conducted on employee engagement called the Q12 Index, that actively disengaged employees have cost the American workforce more than $300 billion in lost productivity? They found that 28% of employees are engaged, whereas 54% are not engaged, and 17% are actively disengaged. That means 71% of people walking around in offices are not actively engaged. It's no wonder it's costing the companies so much money in lost productivity. And it's no wonder companies like eBay and Google and Facebook are doing as well as they are. How is all this relevant to the property management industry, we ask? It's got a lot of relevance. A Canadian resident satisfaction survey published by J.D. Power and Associates in 2010 found that satisfied tenants are much more likely to renew their leases. They not only found that they were much more likely to renew their leases, but they found that they were much more likely to refer other tenants to the building. How do we achieve customer and tenant satisfaction? How do we do it? How could I be a happy customer in that restaurant walking away saying, I'm going to not only come back to this restaurant, but refer other people to this restaurant by delivering outstanding service. That's how we do it. Herb Kelleher was co-founder and former chairman and CEO of Southwest Airlines. I don't know if you're familiar with Southwest Airlines, but he really certainly recognized the value in customer service and happy and engaged employees. Did you know that Southwest Airlines has consistently been named among the top most admired corporations in America in Fortune magazine's annual poll? Herb Kelleher created an extremely effective and innovative corporate culture. His focus was on the employee and customer satisfaction. He had an operating principle. He said that employees come first and the customer comes second. He believed that if you keep your employees happy, then you will naturally keep your customers happy. First you have to have happy employees, and then you'll have happy customers. His objective was to ensure that his passengers had a fun, positive flying experience. Flight attendants were to be jovial and witty and use their real personality and be engaged on the job, and they were empowered to be themselves. They would often even sing popular songs and tunes, the announcements when people were taking off and landing. They would actually sing them out to the passengers. Employees were given extensive authority and decision-making power on the job, in their roles. They created a very unique and fun-loving experience for their staff and for their customers. They had happy staff, and by extension, they had happy customers. They were able to deliver on their service promise. Their motivation here was largely the pleasure of being appreciated. This is something which would come at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The effectiveness of their culture was clearly demonstrated after 9/11. Did you know that Southwest Airlines were the only airlines that not only did they not cut any flights, but they didn't lay off any staff in that industry after 9/11? Their philosophy for the preceding 2 decades had been to manage the airlines in good times so that both the staff and its employees could prosper through bad times. This put them in a very strong position when their industry was in a crisis. What do we want? What we want at the end of the day is happy and engaged employees who understand our service model and are able to deliver on it consistently. That's how we're going to have happy tenants and happy customers. And at the end of the day, what this equates to is increased tenant satisfaction, which leads to higher tenant retention rates, higher referrals, and higher profits. You know, we did a case study here at O'Shanter, and we used a theoretical framework and some case studies to understand what motivates staff. In addition to our existing ISO procedures that we already had in place, we reviewed things like our performance measurement system and creating an inspiring strategic vision. We looked at employee authority and our incentive programs in conjunction with our annual budgets. We looked at our reporting systems, and we looked at creating a clear mission statement of who we are and what we do and what we're trying to achieve collectively with our staff. When I first started here, we did a needs analysis. We wanted to understand what are the needs and wants of our tenants. So we looked at our tenant survey results. We wanted to understand what are the needs and wants of our staff. So we sat down with them and we asked them, what do you think are the biggest challenges that the company's facing? What do you think are the biggest priorities? What do you think needs to change? Where do you think we need to focus our attention? We realized that in the auto industry, who else best knows how to improve the efficiency and the quality of the cars and the production line than the people working on the assembly line themselves? And we received very favorable feedback from our employees and from our tenant surveys. And so our next step was to develop a master plan, and we developed goals and tiered priorities, and we developed an action plan. And before we implemented it, we sat down and we conveyed all the results back to our employees so that they were part of the process. We then looked at our quality. We looked at our core and distinct competencies. And we actually developed a new and compelling vision of where we're headed and where we're going and what we're all about, and a mission and what our core corporate values were. And we communicated them back to our staff so that they knew exactly where we charted our path and where we were headed. We then launched a comprehensive employee recognition program, reinforcing our ISO quality policy, our commitment to service, and our new service model. We also looked at launching a new corporate rebranding. We came out with a new logo, a new slogan, new uniforms, new colors. And then we looked at our culture. And we looked at creating a consult and decide and a consensus-building decision-making process where our employees were involved in the process. And we solicited their feedback, which was very, very valuable. And then we looked at our service. And we actually created a service excellence master plan collectively with the employees, taking our quality of service commitment to an entirely new level. So not only were we ISO certified for quality in the environment, but we wanted to take our service commitment and our delivery of service to our customers to an entirely new level. Using our performance metrics and a balanced scorecard, we were able to measure the results and the impact on our bottom line. What we discovered was that we actually had a return on investment. The ROI in our investment in human capital and motivation paid off, and it increased our profits. Our overall findings were consistent with Southwest's experience and J.D. Power and Associates survey results. We found that happy and motivated staff increased tenant satisfaction, which increased tenant retention and new tenant referrals. This resulted in higher revenues, lower operating costs, and by extension, a higher net operating income. So, at the end of the day, it's very important that we not underestimate the power and the value of motivation, working with our employees collectively to come up with convergent goals and the intrinsic value and impact that it has on the organization. Thank you very much.